Welcome, one and all, to the Success Curious podcast. It's your man, Andy, here, back in the studio, having done a live show the previous week. And in studio, I have myself an absolutely wonderful human being who is taking industry by storm. And it's not just because he's more than a hat rack, he's got an energy that is somewhat infectious. Nick George is director of the Wingman Group, which is a company that specializes in the outsourcing of talent for local businesses, doing offshore talent, bringing a lot of success, not just onshore with the businesses that they work with, but bringing a lot of success to those that are working offshore as well. He works with a number of people that have all got a very, very similar energy in that they want to make sure that whoever they are around, they are leaving in a better place. And I've been a fan for a wee while. We've had his esteemed colleague, Jonathan Ball, on the show quite a few months ago now, but now it's Nick's turn. And some might say, look, Nick, I'm not gonna start rumors, but some might say you're the better looking one. I don't know. Well, that's just popular opinion. Nick George, how are you, my man?
I'm really well, Andy. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for that amazing intro. I don't know about better looking, but you're the first person that's ever said that, so I'm going to take
Well, hey, it's just what I've heard, man. When I was doing my homework, he might have the wavy blonde locks, but something
That's
about charm that comes with Mr. George. Anyway, mate, it's an absolute delight to have you on because of a number of reasons. One, the way that you go about your business is certainly something that I've been I've been an admirer of for a while now. But it's not just the way that you go about your business and the ethos around your business. It's like I said, it's the energy that seems to be around you whenever you're in rooms and interacting with people or on a stage or running your show from a webinar or whatever the case may be. So I'm really, really excited to have this conversation with someone like yourself who is, I mean, effect. I bet you would consider yourself to still be in startup mode almost, right?
Yeah, 100%. We feel like we're just getting started. We feel like we're still a small little startup, and yeah, I think we like to keep it that way.
No, I bet you do. I bet you do. Anyway, Nick, before we get stuck into it, if you could give our lovely listeners a bit of an MO as to who you are and a little bit of a genesis as to what got you to this point.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm the director of the Wingman Group, along with two other amazing directors, Jonathan Bell, who you mentioned, and Jonathan Rostron. So we all have very different roles in the business, but I think really complement us. Going back to my journey, 22 years now, 23 years in the real estate industry. In industry, like in office practice, really. So residential sales was the majority of my career, and then delved into the property management space, and then so did that for 16 odd years, and a few offices, and did really well in resi sales, and delved into the property management space, but then got the opportunity to work in a national role at a large franchise, and I think that was a bit of a penny drop moment for me in terms of the reach that I had in that role. I made a really big point of going to a lot of industry events, networking, building relationships. I think that's been the cornerstone of my of one of the reasons why Wingman has been come onto the scene really, really fast and done so well last year. Is a lot of the people that have worked with us now have become friends. And so yeah, I made a point to really go to a lot of events, network with a lot of people, not afraid to go and say hello to someone, no matter how high profile they are. Never really fazed me speaking to people that I don't know. So, and it's something that I really enjoy. I'm like a bit like this podcast, Andy. It's you're just curious about people and their journeys and what got them to where they got them, and I think that's something I've taken I've taken from quite a young age, and just really had fun with it. And I think that's where we're at the moment. So yeah, I was at that franchise for 5.5 years as the head of property management. So I got a really deep understanding of how businesses are run, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And um, when I met Johnny, well, it's only 14, 15 months ago now.
That's all it is.
That's all it is. It was something as simple as an invitation from an industry partner saying, "Oh, do you want to come to a footy game?" Which I wasn't really that interested in going, but I went and sat next to a young blonde surfy dude who was doing good things at the time, great things at the time, and we just sort of hit it off, and nothing really ever came of it. And he called me 3 days later and said, "I want to fly down to Sydney and have dinner with you." And yeah, it was just it was a bit of a sliding doors moment where I just started talking to franchise owners that were dealing with on a daily basis. You got to speak to this young guy out of Brisbane. He's doing some really cool stuff in the offshoring space. And yeah, it was about 6 or 7 weeks later, I just I dropped it all and rejoined forces. And it's professionally, the last 14 months has been the highlight of my professional career, and I'd love to keep that going.
You can tell that you seem to be on a constant high with everything you're doing, man. Honestly, you're a bit like Bernard Desmond, the broker. Your smile's infectious, man.
I was with Gold last night. He won Mortgage Broker of the Year, and absolute legend of a bloke.
Oh man, I can't get enough of the boy. I really can't. Anyway, so there's a couple of things that I want to dig into with what you just said there, and I think they're going to be things that I think will be really cool for some people to hear that are really struggling with understanding and being able to grow on this whole concept of network equals net worth.
Yeah.
And I think I think there's a couple of things you just said there that I think we really want to dig into. But before my producer gives his boot up my arse, I've got to ask the question before he has to go searching for it. We have a standard question we always ask all of our guests, which is what their definition of a successful human is. I've got my thoughts on it. I believe that a successful human is a human that exudes success, influence, connection, and happiness, and they all live in an ecosystem where one can't survive without the other. Nick George, Wingman Group. What is your definition of a successful human?
When you ask me that question, I just think of words like key words. Happy comes to mind. Adding value, care.
Ooh.
Care is a big one for me. One of the things that there was always a care factor in what I did in my real estate career. But I think that's escalated to another level after when I agreed to join forces with Johnny. The first thing I did before I even started, he invited me to come to the Philippines with him, and that absolutely blew my mind. Every single person that I'm talking to in the industry at the moment, I've got our Philippines team in the back of my mind saying, if you the subliminal message is, if you guys sign up with us, I'm going to help a couple more lives in the Philippines. So like it's a care factor there is really a driving force. And I think another thing is fun. I think in anything in life, you will do it better if you're having fun. And that's something we do try to keep in our organization. There's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of, with anything of scale, with any business, big or small, there are problems that happen. But if you can have some fun along the way, you'll get through those tough times, and you'll be better for it personally and professionally. So fun's a big one for me. I like to keep things lighthearted, fun, and enjoyable.
Well, I think the words care and fun do not come up that often in these definitions, right? And it kind of reflects on how you've rocked and rolled, to be fair, and it really does show. I mean, a lot of people will talk about values, but they'll have those essential businessy type values like consistency and all that sort of stuff. But when someone like you comes on and throws out a couple of words like that, it's obvious. You know what I mean? Like it's really, really obvious. You might as well have it tattooed across your forehead, kind of, right? It's in the best way possible, in the absolute best way possible, and that's what values should be. They should be whatever's in your DNA, right? Whatever is in your being as a human, and I love that care and fun, and I really like how your brain's operating in the sense of right. If I get that client on board, I can onboard 5 more players in the Philippines, which is going to improve their quality of life exponentially. And there is, and there'd be some firms that would be saying that sort of stuff in a sense to try and tick the box of corporate responsibility. But it's really obvious when you look at the leadership team of Wingman, and I very much, and by the way, this isn't a paid plug, but if you look at the leadership of Wingman, just dig into them, man. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take very long to realize that what Nick's just said then is kind of how they all tend to rock and roll, in a manner of speaking. Some more outwardly than others, but
if you
they're all of that.
if you want to get like really technical on like you talk about the successful people, what makes a successful person. One of the things that we've really done well is being really self-aware, and so like you say all this stuff about me being happy and networking and going to social things, and like that is literally the best use of my time. Jonathan Bell is one of the smartest business minds I've ever seen. You've met him. He is strategy, high level, navigating and steering the ship. And Jonathan Rostron is an operational wizard. We don't step on each other's toes. Everyone's just running their lane. But the underlying thing in all of them are those values that I mentioned earlier: having fun, really caring about the client experience, really caring about our employees, really caring about our employees both in the Philippines and here in Australia, and just generally adding value and being happy. So it all sort of ties into each other.
And caring for each other as well. I mean, you boys actually give a shit about each other in a big way, which is so obvious, and it's great to see, man. It's great to see. So now I want to dig into something that you mentioned earlier, how you said that you have this ability to go into a room with no fear. You mentioned how you can go up to people, irrespective of status and what have you, and do that with no fear. I think that for a lot of people that are really trying to break free from their current existence, and for a lot of people, that is how it feels. People can feel trapped by their circumstances, trapped by their environment, and within that environment are the people that make up a part of that environment, right? And there's a few people that are coming to my mind that I've been working with recently, how they feel so stuck. But part of that problem is that the people that they are stuck around are of an existence that doesn't satisfy where they want their life to be. All right. A lot of this, though, a lot of it comes down to fear of change, but a lot of it comes down to a real sense of insecurity when it comes to going and connecting with people that are on a level that you wish to be. Okay. So when you first, I want to ask firstly, if we could go back, press rewind for a sec. When was it within yourself that you discovered that this was something that really didn't hinder you? This inherent fear of reprisal, judgment, insecurity, all those sorts of things. When it comes to trying to make connections with those people that you wish to aspire to be involved with.
Yeah, it's a really good question. The first thing that comes to mind with that question, I take it right back to when I was really, really young. So when I was a kid, and my dad does it now to my 8-year-old sons. So my dad always said to me, when someone walks into the room, get up, say hello, shake their hand, no matter if you know them, you don't know them. It's a bit of an old school type answer, but I've always been that person that if someone walks into a room that you don't know, whether it be in a small setting or at an event, just shake their hand, say hello, introduce yourself. So I remember that from a really young age, and I'm like, that came to mind because my dad did it to my son the other day at a barbecue. He's like, and one of the aunties walked in that my son didn't know, and my son just sat there like a shy boy. So, yeah, so that comes to mind. So I've never really had a fear of saying hello to people, but I think so that scenario that could happen when you're really young, or could happen at a really young age, or really an older age. The other thing that comes to mind is I've always naturally been confident.
Mhm.
And a lot of people have said you actually got an inflated ego of yourself. So I've never, and that's usually my wife. She's like, you just.
Does she just try to bring you down a peg or two?
um, I think another thing was having a national role. Sometimes you'd you'd walk into a room and people would know, oh, that's the head of PM for X. So, so there was probably a combination of things, but yeah, I don't really know if I've answered the question, but
Well, no, you kind of have, in the sense of, there's a little bit of nature versus nurture going on here, where you've had there's something in your DNA that makes you feel a bit more confident in those more sociable environments. Would you classify yourself as an extrovert though?
oh, 100%.
Right. Well, that will certainly contribute towards it, right? And for a lot of people that would be an introvert in many respects, it can be a lot more difficult to really try to build on that network, right? And this is where I'm finding that a lot of people that very clever, very switched on, but they really don't appreciate the value that they have to bring. They end up selling themselves way too short in these sort of environments, right? I'm sure
I've got
because
another thing that's just come to mind after you said that.
go on
So
then.
during my school days, I went to a high school which was in North Sydney, so in the north of Sydney. Being a guy of Lebanese heritage, there wasn't many ethnics in the school, um, and my way to counter, like, I didn't know any of them really, any of the others in the class. I just got stuck into cricket and rugby league and soccer. So sport was a big reason I was able to break down a lot of the barriers, and I think that's probably helped later in life socially, where like nothing really bothered me in terms of going to speak to people. So I think sports probably another thing. I played lots of team sports. I still play team sports now. So team sport, I think, was another reason that's put me in good stead socially and from a networking perspective in my career.
And that's interesting as well. From your observations on this, what I was going to ask before, because to be proficient, I would say, in that social networking, business networking environment, there's a certain degree of observational skills that one would need, right? In order to be able to scan the room, assess the lay of the land, feel the energy, feel the vibe, and then operate accordingly, right? For a lot of people, it is a natural thing. For yourself, it's supernatural, very, very easy for you. But I'm sure that you will have identified people that you've wanted to talk to that are naturally awkward and shy and really struggle in those environments, right? And it'd be on you to really make that connection feel good and warm and fuzzy for them.
Yeah.
If you were to put the shoe on the other foot, just based on your observations, if someone was an introvert that wanted to go into those environments to improve their network and therefore their net worth, what are the sort of two or three things that sort of come to the top of your head that you feel would help those people? Because it's something that I think there can be a certain degree of learned skill around this. It obviously is a lot harder for those people to execute on those skills. What are two or three things that you would recommend coming from someone that is very much at that higher level when it comes to making the most of those environments?
Um, Good question. I think when you go to a networking event, try not to think of it as a networking event. I think
Yeah.
that ultimately most people that go to the networking events just want to have fun. Like there's a bunch of people in their industry all in the one place, having a few drinks, having some conversations. So I think if you're going to these events or you're going to network to actually do business, that's going to come across straight away. Like no one wants to go to an event and be sold to. Like I do not go to events and do social things to sign business. It's like it's not a great way to do things, and people can read right through that straight away.
Oh yeah.
I genuinely like hanging out with these people. They just happen to be in the same industry. Whether they're a high achiever, whether they're new into the industry, like you can connect on many, many levels. So I think just have fun with it. Like go to these events without any expectation, lower your expectations. Like if you're going to go in and say, oh, I'm going to sign all this business and I'm going to meet all these people, it's just like, just strip that all away, be really, really be natural, have fun, and just be curious about people. People that go to networking events want to meet new people. So, just be natural, have fun. I don't know. It's a hard thing to explain because I've been doing it for so long, and I don't have an answer for it. But I think another thing is too, maybe just go with someone who is an extrovert and knows a lot of people. Like I mean, a lot of the younger guys that work with me, were sort of tailing along with me at ARIC last year, and they were blown away by the amount of people that I knew at ARIC, and they were like, "How do you just remember their names, and how do you do this, and how do you do that?" It's just like I don't know if I can articulate how I did it. It's just you've just been doing it for so long, and genuinely like hanging out with these people and talking to them and finding out what they're doing and just being curious in general.
I think there's a couple of things within that. I interestingly had someone at a training event that I did at the Real Estate Institute yesterday, who is a director of a property management firm. And one of the first things that she said to us was that she's looking to increase her funnel in terms of investor leads and things like that. And one of the first things she said to us was, she goes, Andy, I'm naturally a really shy person. So I don't know how to approach people to see if there's an opportunity there. She had her own natural networks, but now obviously she's ready to expand the empire and so on and so forth. And I said to her, look, for a lot of people, a lot of these people, and I think this is the misconception, and I'm sure there'll be people that will be thinking similar of you, mate, all right, where they'll be looking at you from across the room, and it's almost like the perception of you is way more intimidating than the real version of you, right? And it's really interesting when you go into a room like that, and you can see people that clock you, they see you, and a lot of the time you like think to yourself, come on, have a chat, man. Like
That is
seriously.
so true. That's so true. I had this conversation recently, and I was like, I was that guy. I was that guy. So I was that guy. I don't know how long ago it would have been now, but I'd go to a room and you'd say, "Oh, there's Tom Panos, or there's John McGrath, or there's," and like when you get over that, and I think everyone is deep down, there is a level of everyone's shy. Everyone's got nerves. Everyone's shy. It's just if you can be able to just mask it and just work through it. But one of the things that I found out really quickly is these guys, these high achievers or these like icons of the industry, like they're all really good human beings,
Mm,
and they're willing. They've built this aura, or they've got this aura around them. But if you can just work through that, they're some of the most intelligent, hardworking, kind human beings, not just in the real estate industry. There's some really amazing people. And to your point, if there is anyone at an event that is looking over to me, please just come and say hello. I'm not as, I'm not as scary as you think.
And this is just it. This is just it, right? We tend to, and it's the same with anything that's different, right? We always end up realizing that our perception of it is way scarier than the reality of it. And you could apply that to VAs, right? How many businesses shit themselves at the prospect of sending all their stuff overseas, and then within like 2 months of them doing it, the words come out which resemble, man, why didn't I do this before?
Yeah. Well,
Right?
the whole word VAs is a problem in itself, right? So the word virtual assistant is implies that it's like a piece of technology, like it's an AI bot.
Mm.
We and Filipinos actually really hate that word. They hate the term virtual
Which is
assistant.
fair. They're bloody
Yeah.
human beings, right?
So we've actually renamed them. We call them RPs in our business, remote professionals.
Nice.
Yeah, so we actually our whole ethos at Wingman is to change the perception of offshoring and really humanize it. So hence the name Wingman, hence the term remote professionals. And at the end of the day, these people are human beings. They're no different to someone working from home.
Mm.
So I ask any business owner listening to this podcast who doesn't want to go down the offshoring path, like, would you ever go down the path of not ever hiring an Australian person in your business? It's the same concept. It's a human being who's not working in your office. And if one of your Australian team members makes a mistake or does something incorrectly, you're never not going to hire anyone in Australia again. It's the same.
Mm.
They're human beings. They make mistakes. You work with them. And once you've integrated them into your business, there is no better efficiency, I believe, in the real estate or in any business than if you can get a really powerful offshore team in your business, and layer that with AI and technology, which all has a place in any
Mm.
business across Australia. I think if you go down just offshoring or just AI or just tech or whatever it is, I think you're setting yourself up for failure. But I think using all of those in unison and working out what you want to offshore and what you want to have technology being a solution, I think is the way forward.
Now, there's before I go on to my next topic, I really want to touch on the significance of the shift in label with from virtual assistant to remote professional. And it really comes to it sort of comes brings us to a little topic that's starting to become a little bit more prevalent in a few of my conversations, not just on here, but in groups and whatnot, about this whole notion of words changing worlds, right? I think that because society has become a lot more acutely aware of self, and you talk about being self-aware is a key trait for you guys and for yourself as a value and from a success point of view. But I think the world's become a lot more aware of self, right? And as a result of that, it was interesting. I was having a conversation with someone about this because I used to be called, like, loads of people when they give me feedback, they call me raw, and for so long, I've struggled with it because my interpretation of it is uncooked, like not ready yet, all that
Yeah.
sort of shit, right? And it's only been recently when I challenged someone, I was like, "Fuck it, I'm challenging it," right? And I was
Yeah.
like, does that just mean you think I'm like underdone? Like, you know what I mean, right? And he goes, "What?" And I went, "Yeah," and I think some realizations within how I've interpreted words, right, has opened up this huge topic of conversation in the respect of becoming aware in the interpretation of how words are affecting people. Because Nick, I mean, I'm sure there would have been times that you would have someone would have said something with all the best intentions to you, whether it is your wife, whether it is a friend, a cousin, a relative, a colleague, whatever, and you've gone, and they've been all like, "Hey, well done," and said something, and you've gone, "Oh, yeah, all right, yep." Very good. Now, in your opinion, though, when you're talking to people, how, because I think another part of this art of networking, and it is an art, is the ability to tune in and calibrate your language to suit whoever it is that you're talking to, right? So, when you come to me, when we bump into each other in a room, we can F and blind and smile and laugh and giggle and all the rest of
Yeah.
it, right? Because we're children. But for other people, you've got to recalibrate yourself in order to be able to connect properly.
Yeah.
So I know that for you, it's a lot more natural than it is for others. But have you noticed or seen in any of these environments that you've been in where you've seen it go wrong or you've seen it become awkward off the back of that sort of misconnection, that misstep?
Yeah, absolutely. I have. I ha- this is yeah, it's I have, but I'm really comfortable with it, if that makes sense. So,
Right.
I'm naturally a very loose kind of happy-go-lucky type. Non I don't know, non-formal type of
Yep.
guy.
Yep.
And like, let's be honest, like not everyone's going to like you. Like I'm sure there's lots of people that don't resonate with me and don't like me. But I've reached a point where like if I'm networking or I'm at an event, I'm just I'm just really happy being me. I'm
Mm,
really I'm I'm really really comfortable with who I am as a person, what value I add uh, to a conversation, what value I can add if I'm in a professional environment. Even when I'm doing like talking to people about offshoring and stuff, I'm still really trying to have my natural flavor in
mm.
everything that I do. Um, yeah, I think you will if you go to as many events as I do and you meet as many people as I do, there's naturally going to be people that don't resonate with you. I think that's just you're just going to have to find a way to get comfortable with not everyone in the room liking you, I guess.
What you just said there, though, there's one thing that you just said there, though, that I feel we really need to understand that it's so much more critical than anything else that we could say. You referred to your natural flavor. You use the word natural flavor. And I think that is what makes you as good as you are, is the fact that you're comfortable with your natural flavor. Like people call it, their own personality persona. I really like the term natural flavor because not everyone's going to like every dish that's on the menu, right? And I think that it in some people are an acquired taste that things requires getting used to. I love that term natural flavor, and I think we've all got to embrace it, right?
I'm very much like I know that there are people who don't resonate with me and don't I don't know if like me is the word, but I will still smile and shake their hand at an event. Like if I see them and we make eye contact, I'll say
Mm.
hello. I just yeah, I've just it just doesn't bother me anymore. Like if someone doesn't like I don't have to go out for dinner with you. But yeah, I think yeah, it's something that it happens over time, I
Mm.
think. Um yeah, and sometimes people are comfortable internally at a very young age. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, and I think eventually people get there.
Now, I wanted to take a little bit of a left-hand turn, if I may, because one thing that's very obvious, team, as you've been listening to this podcast, is that Nick's attitude towards life, his work, his business, his people is it's very high. It's very high frequency, very high energy, high vibes, happy-go-lucky sort of stuff. You've heard it from himself. He said that he's a laid-back kind of guy and not the most formal individual in the world. Um, how do you feel your attitude? So I want to talk about how your attitude affects your outcomes and how attitude affects your outlook and everything, right? And how attitude's a choice. So you mentioned that you're a dad, you're a husband, your better half is constantly keeping your feet on the ground in various ways, shapes, and forms, and good on her for doing so. That's exactly what she should be doing as well. Um, but tell me, man, when have you had times, and I'm sure you will have, when your attitude has not been your default happy-go-lucky. You've had a shit old time, and how is that attitude? Two parts. How has that attitude shone in the outcomes that you were having at the time? And second part to that, how do you get back to to being the guy that is Nick George and the flavor that he brings? Because for a lot of people, like, attitude is something that we try and be as universally consistent as possible, and we try and hold ourselves to a standard as best as we possibly can. But we're human beings, right? So,
Yeah.
talk to me about this if you can.
Okay. So to answer your question, yeah, there was a period in my previous role where I don't think I was the best version of myself. Um, I I didn't realize it, but I deep down wasn't happy, and I know the reason why now. And that reason was I wasn't shifting the needle in anything I was doing. Um, I had a amazing corporate role with amazing people. Like, there's some amazing people that I was used to work there, that I used to
Mm,
work with. Um, Actually, I still work with now because they're part of our wingman journey. And I felt like I was treading water, and I didn't want to do
mm,
that. I felt like I reached a point where I could add a lot of value to the people that I was working with. Um, so when I made the plunge and joined forces with the boys, on a daily basis, I felt like I was shifting the needle with every single person that I
right.
met, whether it was a small property management business, whether it was a huge sales business, whether it was a BDM in the team. Like, I really try and pride myself now. One of my things for 2025 is adding value to every single conversation that I have. So so I try, and whether that be someone internally or someone who calls me or someone who I meet on the street, I really want to be present with that conversation, um, which can get difficult when you're busy and you got 150 text messages and your phone's buzzing and you've got 3 kids and you need to pick them up from school. And I know the chaos that comes with all of that. So, yeah, so just really just dialing it back to what actually gets you ticking. And then the second part to that is surrounding yourself with people that actually understand that. Um,
Interesting.
yeah. So I've got 2 amazing business partners that just know 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 me and know when I'm fraying, and also my wife, she gets it as well. Like, so if she can sense that I'm off till, she knows that she either needs to come in closer or give me my space.
Mm.
Um, yeah, just, I think, to answer your question, you just got to be self-aware and present. And I'm still trying to no one has ever got that dialed in. It's always a progressive thing, and you've always got to work on it. But I think, yeah, having people around you that know who you are at the core has been a real shift for me. And I think, well, I know now that I'm much happier much more of the time. Don't get me wrong, it's not always smiles and handshakes and
Yeah,
rainbows.
and I
It's
bet you when your alarm went off this morning, it wasn't sunshine and handshakes and rainbows at all, man. This is Nick. This is Nick, by the way, who is there's a little bit of dust on the brow from a rather celebratory evening the night before.
I'll tell you what got me up this morning, though, was knowing that the guys that I'm having dinner with, who I go to the gym with every morning, were going to give me crap this afternoon if I didn't get up and go to the gym. So, so surrounding yourself with people that are going to keep you accountable.
Yeah,
There's a
man,
lesson.
absolutely. It's a really interesting topic, this whole being present thing, because it's one of I'd say it's probably the most difficult things to try and achieve nowadays, right? Is to stay in the moment.
100%. And I'm very fortunate. My wife is a clinical psychologist.
Oh,
And
shit.
so she always talks about being mindful in everything that you do.
Mm,
That's one of the things she talks about with her patients, and Her patients are from every walk of life and dealing with a number of different issues, but she always talks about being mindful. So I've always got that to come home to.
Now, before I let you go, there's one last topic that I wanted to have a chat to you about, which is segues in nicely from what you just said before, having people around you that get you. And this is something that I've been working on with a couple of leadership teams, because in lots of dynamics, there is nowhere near enough awareness around how the people around you tick. Okay, I firmly believe that there's a lot of work to be done in that area of leadership and team leadership and whatnot, especially when you've got multiple directors, right? And which can very quickly become too many chefs and not enough cooks, right? Or too many chefs at one time, right? You're all going to have opportunities to be the chef, but we all need to know when is the time for that and when is the time to be the supporting act, right? Now you mentioned right at the top of this that the two Jonos that you work with, they both have very different skill sets, as do you, and they complement each other tremendously well. I want to know though from you, because you will have worked with God knows how many teams by now, right? Loads of them, loads
Yeah.
of leadership groups and what have you,
Yeah.
both big and small. What are the sort of things that we can do to improve the knowledge and awareness around each when it comes to how each of our players tick? Because you guys, you could call it good fortune, right? You could call it just, it was just great that we all just seem to fit, right? But for a lot of people, that's just not going to happen. And to that end, there'll be a lot of leadership teams that are operating now that are really struggling with this. And it could be something, it could be simple tweaks, but give me your take on this because you obviously know the importance and the value of it, having just said it just before. So tell me, what are the sort of things that we should be doing? Is it merely a case of just finding a space to articulate it better? Maybe like talk to me about that.
I think it's a really simple answer, Andy. I think you need to have someone, whether they be in your business or overseeing your business, who is going to be, who is going to tell you the truth, and be absolutely tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. A lot of times in leadership positions, we want to hear that we're doing a great job and we've got a great team and positive, 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 positive. But it's very you need to have someone in the organization or or we've got someone in the organization who hovers and he works with us, an amazing guy, and he will tell. It's very confronting when you're a director of a business, and someone looks at you in the eye and says, "You are no good at that. Don't touch it. You focus on that." And that's literally, well, I don't touch operations.
Right.
I don't want to. I don't want to be in operations. I'm not good at it. I will make things more complicated. And the other thing too is why should I? I've got an amazing operational mind who's so deep into that. Why do I need to step on toes? And the dynamic is, yeah, sure, there might be a spitball session where we're all in a room and we're talking about X, Y, Z and giving our opinion. But why do I need to get involved in an operational issue or an operational thing where my skill set is growth and relationships? So I think that goes in any business. If you can get the right people doing the right tasks in your business, you will not fail.
I really like that. And it kind of circles back to the self-aware piece, right? Of knowing not just what you're good at, but what you're shit at as well,
Yeah.
or what you are clearly not as good as someone else at. I was having a conversation with a few of the leadership group from Domain, and it was really, really fascinating chat because we were, you look at some of the sales directors and they're coming from different worlds, right? eBay, bloody online, on site, all this, all super, super tremendously talented in their own right, but they're in very, very different sort of versions of that require different skill sets or different personality traits. You know, an online expert versus an on the boots on the ground expert, like very different personality and skill sets, right? And I think being able to identify that is fabulous. I think that one thing that I've taken from this is that sometimes it can be difficult to see it when you're in it. I think that that is something that we perhaps all need to just accept, that we ain't going to be self-medicating sometimes in when it comes to this sort of stuff, because whether it is ignorance, whether intentional or not, ego, or just an unknowing that there could be a gap in skills within that leadership group, right? That no one's realized because no one's known any better, right?
The one of the things that Johnny and I, we do a lot of speaking gigs, and we always have this slide about Richard Branson, and this ties back into what we're talking about really nicely. So there's 3 keys to building a profitable business or $1 million business: is have a crystal clear vision, find the best people to execute, and get out of their way. The amount of businesses that I go into, and I can talk at the real estate industry, the selling principal who wants to grow, who wants to recruit agents, who wants to build a rent roll, who wants to do this and wants to do that. Like you are fumbling, you are getting in the way of your property manager, your sales team, recruitment, everything. Like if you're a selling principal and you want to build a big sales business, work out what you're good at. Are you good at listing and selling? And if you're good at that, then just list and sell. Recruit someone in to run the business and do the recruitment and do all that kind of stuff. If you want to build your rent roll, put a head of department in or put a BDM in and let them do their thing. Like the amount of, it's just something I see all the time, and that quote really resonates, and we actually live by that in our business. And do we have it all figured out? No. Do we make mistakes? Absolutely. But at the core, if you recruit the best people and they're doing the right tasks and they're doing the tasks they're good at and they enjoy doing, you're generally going to get growth. You're generally going to get longevity from the people, from the team members, because they actually like what they're doing. Stripping away all of the admin tasks for our property management business and taking it offshore, so that the property manager just has to nurture the relationship and deal with escalated issues, allows us to have real longevity from our property managers. Our BDMs at Wingman do not touch any admin. All they're doing is building relationships, having conversations, doing Zoom calls, and all of the other stuff gets taken care of, like diary management, contracts being sent out, email responses. So tailoring roles for people to focus on what's actually going to shift the needle and what they like doing it's a really fun way to do business. And there are people out there that are good at the operations and good at administration and are good at marketing that you can actually bring into your business. And that's where you can get like exponential growth.
Big time.
When people, yeah.
Because the world's moving too fast for us to try and take on everything, right?
We're not good at everything.
Nah.
So, and that's okay. Like everyone's got their own skill set. So wouldn't it be awesome if you said, these are the 10 things I'm really good at, but there's 50 things that I need to do in a day. And I understand financial responsibility and all that kind of stuff. But if you were spending 80 and 90% of your time doing the things that you're good at, you are going to excel in that part, which is going to allow you to bring on people to do the other parts for you.
I love it. Hey, look, Nick, George, I really, really appreciate your time. I love having conversation. You're brilliant. I will let you go though, but not before I get you to answer this final question. It really sort of ties in wonderfully well with what we just talked about there, how we're great at some stuff and shit at others.
Yeah.
Final question that I always ask all of my wonderful guests that I'm privileged to have on is, we're all sort of heading towards the next level of success. You know, we're all looking to keep progressing and so on and so forth. And as a result of that, there's always things that we need to work on. If there was one thing that you know that you need to work on in order to help you to maintain that level of progression, what would it be?
Looking after myself.
He says,
Yeah,
ironically, having had a skinful of booze the night before,
yeah.
ironically.
One, well, one of the things that's happened over the last 10 years is I've really enjoyed my life. Oh. But I feel like joining, well, doing the thing that I'm doing at the moment, and the Wingman ethos is having fun and enjoying it. And I'm very fortunate to be working with two business partners that are 28 years old,
Mm,
very motivated, into their health and fitness. And I feel like my output, my vibe, my energy has helped being around them, and them driving me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym and do saunas. And I feel like that's added to all the other stuff that I was really good at anyway. I just want to be healthy. And the other parts of that is uh, having a beautiful family to come home to.
and
I've got 3 beautiful children and a beautiful wife, and that also drives me to continue to build a great life for them, and yeah, enjoy it along the way.
amazing. Nick George, I cannot thank you enough for joining us on the Successful Curious podcast. Honestly, man, your energy is something that if we could bottle up, we'd be billionaires, my friend. And it's something that team for you, if you do ever have the chance to, or if you're ever in a room that Nick is also in, do yourself a favor and go say hello. Doesn't matter how shy you are, doesn't matter how intimidated you might be of either himself or whoever he's around or whatever the case may be. And look, it applies not just to Nick, but to anybody that you would love to just go and have a yarn to if you're in a big room or whatever. But with Nick especially, go say hello. Because what you'll discover in Nick is something that will open your eyes. And what that will be a human being that just has the best intentions for anyone who he comes into contact with. And you'll find that the world gets a little bit less scary once you've had a chat to Nick. So, Nick George, thank you so much for joining us. We'll put all the show notes, all the links to Nick and obviously the Wingman Group in the show notes below. If you are a business, or if you're a small business or a big business that has had fears around hiring a remote professional, then make sure you get in touch with Nick and the gang, and I'm sure they'd love to help. But Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
Mate, honor to be on the show, and yeah, looking forward to catching up really soon.
Awesome. Look, gang, thank you so much for joining us once again on the Success Curious podcast. I'm hopeful that this will have brought you enough value to warrant your time. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Andy Reid Coaching on Instagram, or andy@andyreid.com.au. And of course, my publisher, give me a bollocking if I don't mention it. Make sure that you buy a copy of my book, Success Curious. It is available on Amazon. And Nick, and just before I came on the show, little exclusive. I've just landed a publishing deal in India for Success
Oh,
Curious, which is pretty
fantastic.
cool. So I literally just found out about 2 minutes before we jumped on. So yeah, so the English version, because I don't know if there's an Indian word for bollocks, so I'm pretty sure they're just going balls to it. We're just going to have it in English over there. But yes, so India, watch out. Success Curious is coming for you as well. Team, stay safe, healthy, happy, enjoy yourselves and each other, and take care. We'll speak to you again real soon.